Nothing.
The Bears, they caved.
The Bears. The Bears.
Cheers. Yes, to my favorite football franchise. And
What do you mean they caved? The Bears caved?
they caved. If you remember, we've been following this Caleb Williams book, Seth Wickersham book story really closely. And, well, we kind of been critical of the Chicago media because they've been hounding this idea that, like, Caleb Williams needs to speak. He needs to get ahead of this, or he needs to, put this to bed. And it's like, you guys are the ones saying this and making this a story.
They made the story out of nothing.
I mean, I'm not saying it's nothing.
Well, nothing major. It's a book.
It's not something, though, that I feel like needed to be like, treated like a crisis situation. And unfortunately, I feel like that's what happened at the Bears land, is like the phone started ringing like, when's Caleb going to answer for his, wanting to play for the Vikings and he doesn't want to play for the Bears. Like, we need answers, damn it. We need to hear from the man himself. And it's like, first of all, we know from the book report that ESPN released that Caleb Williams ultimately chose to come here. He signed his name on the deal. He inked it. I actually was advocating that should have been the opening scene of Hard Knocks. That's how big of a deal I thought that should have been. Like, screw Eberflus and all the other crap. We knew he was short-lived.
Yeah.
We knew it.
I was surprised that he didn't get fired before they got Caleb Williams.
I only think that, like, the Bears asked maybe Ben Johnson last year, and he said not yet, and they were like, okay. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's right or not, but I just, who knows? The football gods came together and put Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams together starting in year 2, and that's what we have now. Unfortunately, then this book report comes out, and I want to add before we get into all of it, because we made a whole video about this actually, and you can go back in time and watch it, but just to sum up really quickly, ESPN breaks this story the day after the schedule's announced, and they have the number 1 first week Monday Night Football game, Vikings and Bears. There it is, right there on the schedule, the 2 teams we just mentioned. And Caleb Williams has this awesome bromance forming with the Vikings and their head coach, and he wants to go play there, and they're offensive-minded, and it's great. And then he goes and visits with Chicago, and he goes home and he tells his dad, I don't want to let the Bears fans down. I don't want to let the Bears organization down. I want to win in that city. And his dad, even though he didn't agree with him, he went along with it. So I think that brings us up to speed a little bit. And, after this came out, though, the Chicago media just has been relentless, and they've been on all the sports talk shows, ESPN, The Score, it doesn't matter, the Tribune, the Sun-Times.
They feel entitled, basically.
I feel like they've been a little bit entitled in this situation by, like, almost demanding that Caleb Williams answer for this, when I feel like he already has. He signed the contract. He came here. He came out. I want to say this. I want to add this in. I know we got a lot of clips to get through, but this kid came out, number 1 pick last year, out of the back room onto the stage. Yeah, he was fired up. He said, woo! And then a few minutes later, he's got the bear claw on social media for the first time, the unveiling of the whole and then he and Rome Odunze are together a couple minutes later when they pick him. And I just feel like he always ends his press conferences by going the Bears, and he embraced the cutest parts of our culture from the very beginning.
Yeah, they are doubting his
and now
loyalty.
they're and they act like it. There's doubt in these. We're gonna play these questions and these clips, and we're gonna actually show you that it either it's an act, or some of these media personalities are actually questioning whether he really wants to be here, even now, today, even after the Bears went and signed Ben Johnson. So this whole thing got started with Caleb Williams doing a opening statement. And it went on for a little while, but I clipped the pertinent parts. Nika, do you have it ready to go?
Yeah,
All
sure.
right, sweet. Well, let's just get into it here. This is Caleb Williams at the podium for the Bears.
this whole storm that happened. It wasn't something that, we wanted to happen at this point. We're focused on the present. We're focused on now. We're focused on, trying to get this ship moving in the right direction. And I think so far that's what we've been doing. For this,
did he say ship or shit?
That's so funny you said that. And when I heard this clip first time, I thought the same thing. I've actually listened to this clip now 4 or 5 times, and I don't know. I know he's saying ship,
Are you
but
sure?
yeah, I'm 99% sure, but it's sure as shit sounds like shit.
Either one.
It is funny if you put the word shit. We're trying to move this shit. It does make it a lot funnier. And but seriously, the point that he's making here is like, I feel like he didn't want to come out here and do this. He's like, we're focused on trying to get this ship moving in the right direction. And that's what we're focusing on right now. And thanks to you guys in this room, media, that's why I'm up here right now. You
dragged me out of my practice to perform.
Kinda. You dragged me out of my education, my growth, my development.
And they're going to turn around like, well, see, he's dropping balls
and
now.
then they're going to blame him for these bad passes, or like he doesn't know the offense, or he made a wrong read. And it's like, well, maybe if you would have given him those extra minutes back of his life and focus.
Exactly. He couldn't focus because of you. Hey,
I will say, I like the haircut. He looks a little bit more mature and
more polished.
More polished, yeah. I mean, he's always been well-spoken. Mm-hmm. He's been training to be the #1 draft pick since he was 10. He probably had media trainers there when he was 11. I digress. Let's go. Let's continue this, please.
To come out, it's been a distraction. So coming up here and talking about it and addressing it is important today. And so that's what we're here to do. Next is all that went down, all that was said. Yeah, I had a good visit at the other place. Minnesota, with Ken O'Connell, good staff and all of that. Obviously, he just won Coach of the Year award and things like that. So obviously good staff and things like that. But something that keeps getting lost, something that keeps getting, I think, not being addressed the way it needs to be, is the fact that, I went on that visit first, came here, and then after I came here, I went back home, talked to my dad, and, all of the things that were supposed to be these big things that everybody's been talking about recently. One never happened, in the sense of they were all thoughts. They were all ideas. And I think if you're in the situation, I think if you're...
All right, can you pause it for 1 second? So I think the fact that he has to even go up there and explain this is just ridiculous.
Do you explain your thought process to everybody, to the media? Like I was thinking about this restaurant, but they chose this one. Why? What's wrong with that food?
It's so funny to listen to him explain something that he already chose. We said this in the opening, but it's like, my actions, it's like,
I always thought action speaks louder than words.
It does.
So by his action, by signing with the Bears, all these rumors or the book, whatever, should be put to bed.
It's crazy. I feel like he's being made out to be some villain still. Yeah. And like he's coming out here and having to defend himself for something that he doesn't need to defend himself for. Like I said, his actions show his choice.
Yeah.
I believe him when he says he's committed to winning here. I mean, and now they got him like the wet dream coach that he's been asking for or was hoping for, right? With Ben Johnson. So I don't understand that questioning attitude by the media as a whole. And it's been them as a whole. We've heard it top down, writers.
Create drama.
Okay. Let's
son or
from our guy
or daughter, anybody is in a situation to be in that position. I think you think about all of the options, and and you look at it, the history and the facts and all these different things.
Absolutely.
And those are thoughts that go throughout your head in those situations. So all of those were thoughts. And then after I came on my visit here, it was a deliberate answer and deliberate and determined answer that I had is that I wanted to come here, and just like Ben spoke about.
Can you pause it? I hate that he has to actually like say that twice. Like it was like he's almost defensive so much in this that he's like struggling to get it out even.
Because it's so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, he handled this whole thing with dignity and class as far as I'm concerned, but again, he should have never been put in this position in the first place. I really think that the media is the only reason why he came up here and did this.
Right. I mean, the coach already went out there, explained it. Who else do you need? This is going to reoccur again when the book comes out.
I know. We're going to get to that in a minute. Let's continue this opening statement before we hear from some of Chicago's finest journalists.
The past years, as everybody knows, it's a fact that quarterback play, there hasn't been a 4,000-yard passer. There's all these different things that come up. And so, being able to have those thoughts is I think fair to be able to have good and bad thoughts. But like I said, I came here on a visit, and like I said, just like Ben said, it's a challenge to be able to come in here and try and turn around.
That's it.
100%. It is a challenge, and I'm glad that he and Ben Johnson are aligned in recognizing that it is a challenge. He correctly points out all the shortcomings of the quarterback position in Chicago. And I just feel like at the end of the day, what we're doing here is we're trying to modernize the Chicago Bears and bring them into the 21st century that they should have done a long time ago. It's not a knock on the team, but it's you still have people in their orbit, in their atmosphere, believe that like cold weather impacts their record or something. Like it gives us an advantage. It's like it's the most horse crap theory that has ever existed. I don't know.
There's something, for sure.
Well, Caleb Williams was questioned even by people and fans, like, can he play in cold weather? And it's like,
what?
He grew up in Maryland, right? Or something. Ignorance is bliss, my friends, for a lot of sports fans out there, and that's why we're here. We're here to hold them accountable for their actions. But the idea is definitely to turn Chicago into a modern team, and if that's not the goal, then what are we even doing here? We're not even going to compete in a league that is modernized like this.
Yeah.
All right, let's flip it over. We got the next clip. This was one of the first questions that Caleb got asked, and this is on him and his relationship with Ben Johnson. Nika, do you want to cue that up for us?
New leadership under Ben has left an impression on you.
Yeah, no, Ben's, I think y'all have been able to see it when he gets up here, and you get a little taste of how he is. He's always laser focused. He encourages and he pushes you and challenges you to be at your best as a team, offense, defense, special teams, doesn't matter position. He's sharp, and he's a guy that wants to win. And so, being here, being the head guy, and to be honest, he's consistent with it every day. So, so him being here and being the head guy and doing all of those things and being consistent with it, so far it's been awesome.
Yeah, so far it's been awesome, Nika. I mean, isn't that what we want to hear?
Of course.
I mean, I'm not saying Caleb's telling us what we want to hear. I'm just saying, like, I feel like there's nothing disingenuous about this answer from him. He says he's laser focused. This is Caleb saying this about Ben Johnson. He says he's laser focused, that he's sharp, and he wants to win.
That's a great combination.
That's what I want in a head coach, and that he's challenging these guys. We heard it in the question a little bit there at the start of it, but I'm more than confident that Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are just going to be fine together. Everybody, like,
it seems that way.
I don't understand like why people think that there needs to be this like earned trust back from Caleb Williams to the Bears, because the season didn't go as planned last year. And like, are they saying that the Bears drafted him and like lied to him, or now have to make it up and earn his trust back? Like, I think they have acknowledged that it didn't go the way they wanted, and they're trying to right the ship. Caleb himself says we're trying to right the ship in our opening statement.
Or shit.
Or shit, depending on
who you ask,
what you heard. I mean, in both words work in this situation. Yeah. But back to this, like, didn't hiring Ben Johnson, making him one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL, and knowing that he's an offensive mind and guru that, like, the Raiders wanted to hire, Tom Brady wanted him, like, this is known.
Yeah. It's been sealed. Now you wanted the results.
Yeah, of course.
So
but they're trying to work on that. They're trying to write the shit.
But they are bringing up all the past that doesn't really matter anymore.
The media is.
Of course, media is. Media is the worst participant in this.
I just feel like this was a wasted question. Like, there's no trust that needs to be earned back here. The trust has already been delivered by the form of actions by hiring Ben Johnson.
I think the media needs to work on earning the trust back from the people.
The trust has been earned back by signing 3 offensive linemen in the offseason, or signing 2, trading for 1, and then drafting another, and showing that protecting our quarterback, who got sacked more than 60 times last year, is important.
Yeah.
So I feel like, even if you want to make the argument that Caleb Williams needed to earn some trust back when the season ended, fine. But the things that the Bears have done since the season ended with the offensive line and hiring Ben Johnson, I think speaks volumes. So, and if it were me, I would have some of my trust earned back. Wasted question here. Wasted question.
Shocked. All right. Is there more to it?
Well, we're on to the next clip.
Okay.
The next clip is, okay, so just to set up the clip, you might remember Caleb Williams in the article. Caleb Williams in the article said something about game film and how nobody was helping him watch game film, and he was like left to watch it by himself and figure it out or something. So this led to a lot of people to be like questioning, does he know how to watch game film? Like, it's like, guys.
Do you know how to turn the TV on?
Yeah. All right. Well, so someone asked him, and did you rewind it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's listen to the question and then Caleb's answer.
Now, as opposed to.
Yeah. That was a funny one that came out. It wasn't that I didn't know how to watch film. It was more or less the sense of learning shortcuts, in the sense of, or not learning shortcuts, but learning ways to watch film and be more efficient, learning ways to, pick up things better. And so that was a funny one that came out, that in context and how I was trying to, portray it, didn't get portrayed that way. So it wasn't that I didn't know how to watch film. I was trying to figure out the best ways and more efficient ways so I can watch more film, I can gather more information, so that when I do go out there on game day, that it's, I'm that information that I gathered through Monday when we got back, all the way up to, whatever day the game day is. So when I get out there, I can gather it, I see it, I can react. And it's not me sitting there thinking so much about, the rules and these different things. It's more of a reaction game at that point in muscle memory.
All right. Well, that's the end of that clip. And basically the big point here that I want to drive home is, I think what Caleb Williams was really getting at with this whole game film story that he was telling his dad, which is where this whole question comes from, is basically there was no onboarding process for Caleb Williams. Like, here's how we watch film as an organization, and this leads to like the bigger problem with Matt Eberflus as a head coach, is that he was not creating any kind of culture for the Bears, like to be as an identity, and that's part of this process. I feel like is, Caleb Williams went to USC. He played quarterback there. He threw 6 touchdowns in a game. I think he knows how to watch and study game film from his other coaching relationships. Hell, his offensive coordinator in college is now Jaden Daniels' offensive coordinator in the NFL. So, You trying to tell me that he doesn't know how to watch game film? I think that's absolutely preposterous and ridiculous, or at least even implying it. You know, that like he was confused or something. Like, come on, guys. Like, he's a well-spoken kid. I think he's smart enough to know how to watch game film at his station in life, or at least had enough experience with it.
Yeah,
but he was not onboarded by the organization. Go ahead.
Yeah, plus we are talking about previous regime, how things were run in the previous regime. This is completely different coaching. This is completely different group of people that he's gonna interact with or interacts now.
Yeah. And he's building a culture here already, because we're going to
Yeah.
hear about some of the culture that Ben Johnson's building here in a second, and I'm excited for it.
Okay.
But I just wanted to point this out. I feel like this whole watching film quote from the ESPN article gets blown way out of proportion. It's almost like by design, right? It's almost like ESPN knows that the Chicago media is going to overreact and freak out over this. And congratulations, Chicago media. You played right into their hands. You played right into their hands. It's going to be an ongoing story now. You think it's going to go away because he spoke out yesterday finally. No,
they're
it's
gonna
not going
find
to go
something
away.
else.
They're going to pile on all the way until September. And
Of course, it's a evolving story till the books comes out.
this is going to be the number one story week one, probably going into the NFL. It's certainly going to be the number one story on Monday Night Football that night, going
yeah.
into the game before the game starts. And then by the time the game's over, no one will talk about it ever again.
We might have to turn it at ESPN2 for the Manning brothers.
The Deuce? Oh, yeah, definitely. We're going Manning Bros.
All right.
All right. Well,
Next.
yeah, Caleb Williams can watch game film. That's basically that. Let's talk about this question. Now, the next question is important because this would have been my first question out of the gate, Nika. And I'm going to let you cue up the clip and just let it play.
All right.
When it comes to the timing of the book, I believe it comes
Book?
with the book.
Yeah, okay,
I
yeah.
believe it comes out the day after the opener against
Yep.
the
The
Vikings.
book.
Are you worried that it's going to be a distraction again?
No.
Are you confident that most of this is already out there?
That's why I came up here today to address this. And
Pause it really
actually,
quick. Shout out to this journalist. I don't know your voice or name yet, but I'm gonna learn it probably by the time the season starts. This was question number one on my book since this story came out. Is okay. So ESPN is strategically releasing this book excerpt on the day after the NFL schedule is announced, and it involves the Vikings and the Bears, and they happen to be playing week one on, you guessed it, ESPN Monday Night Football. All right, conspiracy theories aside,
My tinfoil head is getting bigger. Can't keep up.
yeah, it's baking in the desert.
I'm kidding.
Okay, so we have that part of the story, right?
Mhm.
But I guess I feel like when you have a scoop, also, you don't give it all away right away. And you withhold the juicier nuggets for when the time is right.
So you're saying
And they
there'll
only
be-
really gave away enough to stir the pot and to make the Chicago media go crazy and
So what do
start
you
to
think-
freak out and be like, Caleb needs to speak. Caleb needs to
Okay.
speak. And now,
What else is gonna come out?
so yeah, well, that was my first question is like, what is not yet in the article that is actually in the book? That was my next question. So kudos to this journalist for asking that. Let's hear what Caleb says about this.
Okay.
speak on, some of the things that were at this moment out of context, and also some of the things that I want to clarify, like what we just spoke about in the watching film and things like that. Obviously, my information that I know now was not the same as last year, whether it's fronts, defenses, blitzes, whether it's offense and things like that. And that's something that over the years and over time, speaking on it like Case, he comes in here and he's been in many different offenses and things like that, many different, teams and all of this. So when he comes in here and he hears something, it may be a different name, but it's the same exact thing. So that sort of thing is kind of, on a steady trend longer that I play.
All right. So he goes through this process here and basically talks about the future. He didn't really talk about whether or not there's anything else in the book. He kind of said that he wanted to get ahead of this stuff. Or
was he interviewed for the book, or was his father interviewed, or we don't really know at the moment.
So like I think
Or this is all secondhand.
Seth Wickersham, from everything I know and understand about him, besides being an author, is like a draft insider, you know?
Okay.
And he was doing this book because he's kind of like watched a lot of people from close up, I think, and far away go through this process. But it's interesting to him, you know?
Sure,
and,
but
and
the
the
book
quarterback's
is-
always going to be the most interesting
But
position.
the book is about quarterbacking, not Caleb Williams.
It's
He's
not
just
about
part
Caleb.
of it.
He's just part of it, and he just happened to be the number one most
Interesting
likely
part.
pick the year that he was like putting this book into works. And you know, he's an accomplished author. It was
Sure.
probably something that was, you know, paid for in advance by the publishing company or ESPN themselves. I don't know. They probably get a cut of it. Who knows?
But it seems to me that he did interview either Caleb or his father. I would say his dad more likely, or got some quotes before.
Yeah,
The
I think
draft.
it's just more along the lines of like, this overlooked by Caleb Williams and his dad by, you know, association, because of the fact that they were both apparently talking to this guy.
Well-
Was this an overlooked problem that they didn't really realize at the time? Like, and did they really think that they might circumvent Chicago by talking to him about it in the first place before Caleb changed his mind? You know, does that make Caleb even more of a hero? Like, I mean, some of those things make it sound like the dad was willing to go nuclear. And Caleb even said, quote, "I don't want to nuke the city," or something.
True,
Like,
but that, you know, the interviews had to happen 2 or 3 years ago, because it takes a while to write a
no,
book.
they were happening in like December and January of that year.
Well,
Like,
2 years
but I
ago.
think this part of it was probably like some of the last stuff added to the book, maybe,
Okay.
because it's putting it into modern context, and it's like going back to like different quarterbacks like John Elway, Steve Young. I'm trying to remember some of the other names that I know for sure were in this book. But Caleb Williams is definitely the most like recent, you know, person that's getting followed from this process of going from high school to college and to the pros. And that's what
Okay.
this book is supposed to be about. And this is a big dramatic part of it. You know, let's get to the heart of that question and why they were talking about this in the first place. Was Caleb Williams' dad just doesn't believe that you should not have any choice of where you work. You know, and I know that's antithetical to the whole entire NFL draft process, but when you look at the fact that like you might fall into this franchise and this trap or a place that just comes with extra added pressure,
But
you don't maybe want that for your
But
son.
you know, if you're trying to be a number one pick, you know you're gonna go to the worst team.
And I think that's where his dad erred maybe in his approach to just say like, you have to embrace whatever comes at you
Yeah.
with this opportunity, because just remember that team that drafts you number one overall is doing it for a reason, and they need you.
Right.
You know, and you should welcome and accept that challenge. So that's the only part of the story that I feel like the father erred in his ways. I don't think he had necessarily bad reasons for feeling that way, because of course the track record with the Bears speaks for itself. I've endured it my entire lifetime. I've been calling since 2000 to say, like, can we modernize our offense, please? I was sick and tired of getting my ass kicked by Favre. And then I got it again from Rodgers for another decade and a half. So, I mean, I'm tired, you know, like, and I want the Bears to modernize, and I want Caleb Williams to be a part of it. And I'm glad that they got Ben Johnson here so that can finally probably start to happen.
Okay.
Let's continue, please.
Well, that was it.
That's it for that clip.
For
Yeah,
that clip,
we're
yeah.
we're up to the next clip. This is on Caleb Williams and his dad, speaking of which, and this was by far the worst question of the entire press conference. Nika, do you have it queued up to the beginning and make sure we hear the question here?
Yeah.
For you?
No.
Can you
Actually-
rewind it?
Caleb, does your dad speak for you?
No.
Thank you.
I actually shut my dad down quite a bit. He has ideas. He's a smart man. And so I listen, and I always listen. And I'm very fortunate to be in this position in the sense of, you know, playing QB, but also very fortunate to have a very strong-minded father And so, we talk very often. It's like my mom and my dad are my best friends. And so, being able to, have conversations with them to understand that everything they say also is, portrayed on me. So I think that's the part of it. But other than that, no, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm very fortunate to have a father, that's super strong minded, that's always there, always wants the best for his kid. And I think, any of y'all that has a kid or, anything like that, a niece or nephew that you love so dearly, they try and help and you try and help and put them in positions that it's the best position that you can. So that's all he tries to do, on a steady trend longer that I play.
I'm so just disgusted listening back to that again, that he even had to answer this question, and I
mean, it's nice to know that the family dynamics is great and functioning properly.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is there's a hidden sort of context I feel behind this question that says are you grown up or mature enough? Or do you need daddy to come and bail you out? I feel like it's derogatory, and he doesn't need to be demonized like that on national television. This is all over X, Twitter. You can see 140,000 views as of this morning. 140,800. Jeez. Blah, 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 blah. I just feel for the guy. He's on one hand being asked to sort of defend that he defied his father, right? So what just an awkward question to be in here. I was feeling for Caleb on this one. And I just thought the whole question was awful. Of course he speaks for himself. He chose the Bears in defiance of his dad, according to the book report. And I'm going to keep calling it a book report because that's what I wrote in school. And that's what ESPN published as far as I'm concerned. They published a little book report. Mr. Fancy Pants over there. All right. Yeah. Caleb Williams on his relationship here with his dad. But let's move on to more important things. This is the last clip I got from Caleb in this press conference. This is Caleb Williams on the quote-unquote Ben Johnson effect. Let's hear from the kid.
And now Ben Johnson has made some tweaks to your game. How have you adjusted to the change in the stance? How have you adjusted to being under center a little bit more?
I guess the Ben Johnson effect, right? I guess the Ben Johnson effect, right? He's gonna get a kick out of that when he hears it. I think part of it is just different coaches have different philosophies.
Can you pause really quick? That was definitely a response to these people we were talking about the last time we talked about Caleb, when it was the impatience factor. We thought the Ben Johnson effect would be immediate. I think they even literally were quoted as saying that. Both of the knuckleheads, meatheads, jeez. And so I just think it's funny that not only did that get back to Caleb Williams, but apparently he had a witty comeback all ready to go for it. He
practiced.
He did. He got his media training, everybody. No, I don't. I think he comes across pretty authentic overall on the whole. So let's hear from him.
Philosophies for things, and that's one of his things is left foot up. I've been a right foot up guy for typically all of my career, and I think I've done it once or twice throughout my time of playing QB. So it's just one of his things. And then, like I said, the details, being on top of it, huddle, we call it PSP, but pre-snap procedure, all these different things matter. And especially in big games and big moments, all the little things come up. And so I think that's important to him, and it's important to us, and we gotta get on top of it and be on top of it from the head down. So, like I said, the Ben Johnson effect, I guess, right? Awesome. Thank you, everybody. The Bears.
Perfect.
Thank you, everybody. The Bears. Perfect indeed, Nika. And a couple things stand out to me here. This first of all, it's nice to know that professional sports teams also use 3-letter acronyms for abbreviations, PSP here, pre-snap procedure. But also it shows Ben Johnson is instituting culture on this team. That's